Welcome back to the M-SABR recaps and previews for 2022. This episode is the NL East. As always, we're going to recap each team, and then at the end we will predict the records. Timestamps will always be below. I'm Nolan, the host, also a Cardinals fan, and I'm here with...
I'm also Nolan, go Cubs.
I'm William Gregory, go Tigers.
I'm Jack, also Tigers fan. Go Akil Baddoo.
Go Baddoo.
Go Castro.
It's both Castros.
All right, let's move on to the Braves. All right, we are back. Here are the Braves. As you can see, they had a home run in the first pitch of the World Series, or actually the third pitch, first at bat of the World Series, and won it. And what did they do after they won the World Series? They lose their superstar, Freddie Freeman. They also lose Stephen Vogt, Jock Peterson, Chris Martin, Drew Smyly, Jorge Soler, and Ehire Adrianza. They pick up Jay Jackson, Matt Olson to replace Freddie, Manny Pena, Kirby Yates, Colin McHugh, Kenley Jansen, and Tyler Thornburg. What do you guys have to say about the Braves?
This team is better. This team is better than the team last year. This team is better than the team last year. I know, a World Series team. No, this team has a better pitching staff than Mike Soroka. They have a better lineup with Matt Olson. And now you got Marcell Ozuna back. They're going to play better this year. And how did I forget? Ronald Acuna, he's back at the end of the month. He was on my list. He's back at the end of the month. He's going to kill it. This team is significantly better than the one last year, and I think they're a World Series contender.
I completely agree. Let's hear what Nolan has to say.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to the team last year. You substitute Matt Olson in for Freddie Freeman. You got now Kenley Jansen at the back end of the bullpen, and obviously Acuna coming back. And I think it's a good thing because I think they'd rather have Acuna for the second half of the year than for the first half. So I think come around playoff time when this team's in it, it's going to be fun to watch Acuna and Matt Olson, those guys.
On to William.
Yeah, I really like what the Braves have the ability to do this year. I was so surprised when they made it as far as they did in the playoffs because, like, the year that Acuna is out for the year, you don't expect them to win the World Series. And now they get better. Like Jackson, you get better everywhere pretty much. And I'm excited to see what they can do. I think the NL East is a little bit tougher with the additions that the Braves and the Mets and the Phillies made. And the surging Marlins are going to do pretty good, but it's going to be tough to beat the Braves if you're the rest of the NL East.
At the very least, this team is going to be very fun.
Exactly.
I mean, we didn't even go into like Ynoa. Like, was he out for a while last season? Like,
the front of their rotation is terrifying. Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson, Ynoa, Soroka comes back. That's one of the best rotations in the NL.
Ynoa broke his hand because he let up that home run and he punched the wall.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
I think Foolish Baseball said he doesn't like Ian Anderson's
I get it,
this year.
but he's still good.
I want to see, and that's coming from a Braves fan, so it was interesting.
He's still a good player.
Okay, let's imagine he underperforms a little bit.
Ooh,
are we all that worried? All right, what's his Savant?
Look at his Savant right now. It's really not that good.
All right, I'm gonna.
It's kind of really bad.
I don't care about Savant.
Now I gotta pull it up.
You got the ERA. The ERA is all that matters.
I only care about
He doesn't
wins.
give up many runs. Oh yeah, he gets wins. Maybe.
There's a white screen for everybody right now, but I'm trying to grab his Savant because now we're talking about it. Here you go. Barrel percentage 9.5%. That's not great.
20th percentile.
Okay, you
survive.
have Max Fried, you have Charlie Morton, you have Mike Soroka. That's all you need.
I just think it's
You
interesting
got
because
that top three. You can fill out the back end with
I didn't know it
anybody.
was like this.
They're a very good team. And
He
it's
had a really good
it's
run value on his four-seamer though, but like
probably on paper the second best team in the NL
In the NL? Yeah.
after the Dodgers.
I think that's a clear top 2, even though I don't necessarily want to see a rematch, but it's tough
I
to
I don't know
argue
why
for
it
anyone
always
else.
trends. Well, what about the Padres pitching now?
They aren't going to have Fernando for the first half, so I think that's really going to take them out of the playoffs because their division's just going to eat them up. But that's
And you don't think Acuna being out is going to take the Braves out of it?
no.
For a month.
We just saw them win the World Series without him, so it's kind of
But
hard.
now they
to-
don't have like Soler.
I mean, their
Soler's
bullpen
was bad anyways.
The bullpen
Can't field.
carried them in the playoffs. When you have a bullpen that can just lock down, you're not going to be like really bad underperforming during the regular
The
season.
Braves bullpen is very, very good. Much better this season with Kenley Jansen in there.
All right, we will move along to the Phillies,
No, you cut that.
and we are back with the Phillies. So they had an interesting offseason. They lose McCutchen, Brad Miller, and Hector Neris, who were all good players for him last season, but they got much better by adding Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Jeurys Familia, that's probably not how you say it, Corey Knebel, and Brad Hand. They also lost Archie Bradley, forgot to mention, and Ian Kennedy, but they'll be all right. I think they still get better, no doubt, because Knebel and Brad Hand, they can cover Neris and Bradley, and then just the big sluggers are added to the roster. Let's take a look at the full starting lineup. Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Rhys Hoskins, Gene Segura, Didi Gregorius, Matt Vierling, and Bryson Stott. Are there any injured players, or are those starters?
I believe those are starting, right?
Okay. Looks like Odubel Herrera is injured. Okay. All right. So he might come into the lineup. Probably not, but pretty solid lineup. I mean, top 7 are really good, and then I wasn't sure whether those last 2 were going to start, but I know Bryson
We could
Stott.
see Boehm at third, right? And then
Oh,
Odubel
Boehm.
in
Yeah,
center.
and then there's no defense if you have Bohm at third and the outfield looking the way that it is. Absolutely no defense.
I don't know what they're good. Honestly, their defense confuses me. I saw Bryce Harper taking grounders a few days ago, so
Aaron Nola had a 3.67 FIP last year, had a 4.6 ERA. This year it'll be the same thing. He'll have 3.6 FIP. He'll have a 5.6 ERA. That's just how bad this defense is.
yeah, I mean, their team looks like they're about to post some FIPs. I mean, Zach Wheeler, Ranger Suarez, Zach Eflin,
Yeah,
Kyle Gibson, and Aaron Nola. Like the FIPs will be great, but the defense is going to be the question.
Certainly a deep rotation with it.
I'm actually
Kyle Gibson probably at the 5 spot. It's not a bad 5 spot.
I am definitely willing to hear an argument for them to win the division because just the players are all good, but the defense is just so bad.
I mean, when you've got a lineup with Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, and Bryce Harper as the top 4 hitters, that lineup's dangerous all the time. And then they have a deep rotation. You got Zach Wheeler, Cy Young candidate, and Aaron Nola, I think, is going to bounce back. And then fill it out with Ranger Suarez, Kyle Gibson, Zach Eflin. That's a real deep rotation with some high-end guys at the front of it. And obviously the bullpen they've had has struggled for years now. A little bit of retooling there with Familia, Knebel, and Hand. So if they can finally put it together with the bullpen, I think this team's dangerous.
I think it's just a classic case of a big market team spending money on things that they don't really need. I mean, we talked about the bullpen and the defense being such a problem. It's been that way since they went down this route with Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto. They've neglected that. So why would this season be any different? I could see them possibly finishing 3rd or 4th. I mean, I think the Marlins could take a step up as like a really young, hungry team, and I think the Mets have a better constructed roster at this point. I really am not high on the Phillies. I think they have great players, but I don't think they have a great team.
All right, we'll continue those
Phillies
discussions
have
at
stepped
the
up.
end with like the other teams, I guess. But these players themselves, what do you got to say, Jack?
The one area where the Phillies have gotten better is the bullpen. That's the one area where they're better than the other three teams that we haven't talked about yet, is the bullpen.
I agree with that. But like bottom end of the bullpen, you're gonna need some of these guys to perform, and they haven't in the
Yeah.
past. So there's reason to worry. But we will take a look at that as we continue. I think I'm gonna try to get through these next couple. Let's move along to the Mets. Okay, we are back with the Mets. What did they do this offseason? They lost Marcus Stroman, lost Noah Syndergaard, lost Jeurys Familia, lost Brad Hand, lost Aaron Loop, lost Rich Hill, lost Javi Baez, and lost Jonathan VR. But they added Chris Bassett, Adam Ottavino, Max Scherzer, Eduardo Escobar, Mark Canha, Starling Marte, and they should get DeGrom back from injury, but we actually don't know now. I have no idea. What do you think, Nolan?
Well, obviously this team went out. They got probably the best starting pitcher on the market, and they also made some nice additions to the lineup. Just Jacob DeGrom's injury right now is killing this team, and then the day after DeGrom hurts his shoulder, you got Max Scherzer pop up with a hamstring injury. So I really think that the fate of their season is going to depend on how early they can get Jacob DeGrom back. He's just such a top-end starter, and especially with the team whose offense struggled. Francisco Lindor struggled for a good part of last year. I really think they're going to need as much pitching as possible again this year.
I think I see a lot of that as well. What do you think, Jack?
Look, DeGrom matters. Obviously, it matters. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball, one of the best players in baseball. But the important part of this team is they can't hit. Though Francisco Lindor struggled last year, he has to come back. Starling Marte is a great addition, but doesn't add a great amount of offense to their lineup. They get Robinson Cano back. Who knows how well he does? Pete Alonso is their one true hitter on this team. And I just don't think that's enough to make a playoff spot, especially without DeGrom. With DeGrom and Scherzer, it might be enough, but they need to add hitting if they really want to compete for a World Series.
Yeah, they could really use just a huge bounce back year by Lindor.
I think Conforto is still a great fit for them, and I don't know if that bridge is like burned or something. But like Jack said, I mean, Mark Canha, whatever, Marte, sure. I just don't think that they have the dudes that will produce in October or even in September to get you to October. And it's just tough to think of the Mets as like a World Series contender. I don't even think anyone's been talking about it, even though they spent all that money in the offseason. It's on a bunch of guys in their mid to late 30s. It wasn't signing Bryce Harper or Manny Machado. It was signing some old vets that had one great year last year, maybe. I mean, Scherzer's a Hall of Famer, and Mark Canha's been solid, but I don't know if it's the splashes you really want for that amount of money being paid out.
Yeah, when I look at this team, if they don't have DeGrom, I really don't know how they're going to get the wins that they need. Like Carrasco and Taijuan Walker and Taylor Megill, I mean, like, they weren't all great last year. They were probably slightly below average. Bassett and Scherzer were good, as always, but I just don't. I mean, these guys are old. Who knows whether they're even going to have their stuff without DeGrom?
Yeah, I think they're just going to need a lot of bounce back years from a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I don't trust that.
I can't say I do either, but we can hope for it.
Yeah, I guess if you're a Mets fan out there, you got a lot of hoping to do because without DeGrom, this team's not exactly a favorite to win the division. But now that we've kind of gone over this roster, I think let's move along to a young team that there is a lot to look forward to with the Marlins. All right, we're back with the Marlins. What did they do this offseason? They lose Zach Thompson, but that's really it. They pick up Jorge Soler, Jacob Stallings, Avisail Garcia, Joey Wendell, and Luis Head. So I think that's a great offseason. They're ready to take a step up. They got a lot of young pitching. And now that the Mets are injured, I like the upside for the Marlins this year. What do you guys think? Start with Nolan.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really fun and exciting young team to watch. They got Jorge Soler and Avisail Garcia to put into that lineup to help them out a little bit on the offensive side of things. And I don't know if there's going to be a more exciting young pitching staff in the majors this year. I feel like they just are so deep with so many options of young guys to go with. They picked up Jesus Luzardo from the A's at the trade deadline last year, and then mix that in with some of their other young prospects, Edward Cabrera, Max Meyer. They got a breakout from Sandy Alcantara last year, Pablo Lopez. I think it's a really deep rotation, and I think the Marlins could be a sleeper team this year that could win a few more games than some people think.
I think their pitching is really coming into form, but then on top of that, they made some underrated moves, I would say, this offseason. They signed Avisail Garcia and they signed Jorge Soler. They also traded for Joey Wendell. I know a lot of those players, or maybe all of them, have a serious case to regress offensively, but it's something we haven't really seen the Marlins do, which is go out and get guys in free agency and through the trade market. Big problem is at the catcher position for them, which they solved by trading for Jacob Stallings, who I think is actually projected to have the most WAR offensively on the team with like 3 with his defense, and he's a great leader. So I think they made really great improvements on offense, and the pitching's only going to keep getting better as their young guys get more experience.
I'm going to come out on the other end of this, I guess, idea spectrum. I think the pitching is great. I think the pitching is really good, very deep, but the lineup is going to be a problem. They have at best a below average hitting, and the outfield defensively is a mess. You can't start Jesus Sanchez in center field. You can't start Jorge Soler in the outfield. They're both liabilities at given positions. I just don't think this lineup is enough to keep the Marlins in competition this season.
I agree with that. I don't think they're really going to be competing for the division. I just think they might definitely add a few wins than they had last season. Oh yeah, the bullpen too. Do you guys like the bullpen?
Not great.
Yeah.
They just don't have any elite bullpen arms. That's
Oh
about
yeah.
it.
The thing that I wanted to bring up, how many of their starting, well actually you guys probably have it pulled up also, but they only have one starter who they drafted, who they're hitting with. So it's like they do spend to try to, or trade, like they trade and spend to try to build a lineup. And that's kind of how they did it last year too. But I just don't think the guys that they have are good enough at hitting to get it done. So probably another decent season from the team. I just think, maybe the good starting pitchers, the top 3, Trevor Rogers, Pablo Lopez, Sandy Alcantara, I think these guys can all pick up a good amount of wins. Like if you have them in fantasy, look to win a few games, At least I hope so, because I have all of them. But let's move along to the Nationals. All right, we're back with the Nationals. They signed Nelson Cruz. They got Juan Soto. They actually picked up Elaine Thomas and Alcides Escobar, Victor Robles, Michael Franco, Kelbert Ruiz, Josh Bell. Those are their starting hitters. What did they do this offseason? They got Cesar Hernandez and Ihar Adrianza and Steve Cishek, Sean Doolittle, and Nelson Cruz. So, not a great roster. But
Nationals,
yeah, there's a lot to watch. You can buy a ticket and not be super disappointed. You can, Cesar, Juan Soto, and Nelson Cruz are good hitters. Lane Thomas, a little bit of a promising prospect, but Cardinals didn't want him for a couple reasons. So
I think for some reason the Nationals right now just make me think of like waking up in the middle of the night and having a really dry throat and needing water. Like that's just the feeling that I will have if I ever have to watch them play.
Is
Oh.
Nelson
I don't know
Cruz
why.
the water? Is he enough to quench your thirst?
It's Juan Soto. That's about it. I mean,
Yeah.
everything about the team is just like unappetizing, really. The pitching, like there's some albatross contracts with Strasburg and Corbin. I think Josh Bell is going to be a good hitter, but he's not going to be able to carry you. He's not a really big masher at a position that needs a big masher. Soto's an MVP candidate, but then beyond that on offense, are you hoping 42-year-old Nelson Cruz becomes what he was when he was like 35? I don't know.
I can't imagine Cruz being any more than trade bait. That one just doesn't make sense to me at all, signing a 40-year-old when you're probably not going to be in contention this year. But
look at the ages of their players. They were awful last year, but they still have Alcides Escobar, who's 35. They have Nelson Cruz, who's 42. Steven Strasburg is getting up there. I mean,
they certainly aren't moving on.
They need. This is going to last a while, I think. Their farm system is depleted. I think this period of not being good is going to be pretty long for them.
yeah,
I think the biggest thing for them will be seeing some development and growth with Josiah Gray in the rotation, trimming down on those home runs because the long ball was really hurting him last year. And Kyber Ruiz behind the plate, see some development out of him. And then I also do think that they have to get a contract extension done and lock up Soto at some point.
yeah. Soto is the only piece that I'm like sold on in like a rebuild for this team. I think Kybert has a lot of potential. What were you saying?
Well, we talked a lot about the hitters. The pitching is the real problem. They have 2.5 pitchers in Patrick Corbin, Steven Strasburg, if he's healthy, and Josiah Gray. And the relieving staff is possibly the worst in the MLB. It's a liability at best. It just doesn't look good for the Nationals this season.
Yep, I think we're all in agreement on that. Bullpen. I mean, I like Doolittle and Will Harris potentially, but they're
They haven't
old.
been good.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll figure out soon. Let's just take a look at the standings. I think that's what we're all waiting to do anyway. All right. And we are back for the predictions. So I have Vegas win totals from before the injury to DeGrom. I have them losing 5.5 more games than Vegas did because of that. So my number one team is the Braves at 93-69. Number 2, the Phillies, 90-72. Number 3, the Mets, 84-78. Marlins, 76-86. And Nationals, 63-99.
I think my hot take is going to be that the Marlins finish third in the division. I don't really have – I think the Braves win the division, but I don't really have a firm opinion on who finishes second and fourth. You could flip the Phillies and the Mets. I don't really care. I think one of the teams out of those two is going to have some sort of problem this year with team chemistry or injuries, which the Mets already lost DeGrom for 2 months. The Nationals are obviously going to finish last, but I think the Marlins have the possibility to be that next young team that comes up and gets hot, sort of like the Tigers last year, but I think they have a lot of well-rounded talent that the Tigers might not have had last season. So I like the Marlins a lot. Mets and the Phillies could go either way, second or fourth.
I still think the Mets are the second best team in this division. Defensively, they're elite. Pitching-wise, with DeGrom back, they're terrifying. Without DeGrom, they're still very good. I don't like the Phillies. I don't like the Marlins. I don't like the Nationals. I think those are the two teams that make the playoffs this year in the NL East.
The Mets? You got the Mets?
I do have the Mets, yes.
I could see it. What do you got, Nolan?
I'll go in reverse order here. I think the Nationals finish at the bottom. I think it's going to be a little bit of a rebuilding year for them and just kind of see where they're at with things right now with not a ton on the roster besides Juan Soto at this point. And then in front of them, I think it's going to be Miami. They're still young. I think the lineup's still going to struggle a little bit, which is which is kind of the same thing that I think is going to happen with the Mets, who I think will finish in third. I think without DeGrom and Scherzer healthy, which at this point we don't know if they're going to have it for how long, for much at all this season. And I think the lineup still is going to have some of those struggles they have last year. And second place, I think, is going to be the Braves. I still think they're going to be really good, but I think the Phillies, I think with the additions they made to their lineup, I think that lineup's going to mash. And I just love the rotation this year with Wheeler, Nola, Suarez. I think that's a really, really good top three. And I think this might be the year that bullpen can finally put it together. And I think the Phillies are going to take the division close over the Braves. Still think the Braves will get a wild card spot as well.
I like the pick. I think we're gonna learn just how important defense really is. Like,
I'm a defense supporter.
I am
for the
too.
Mets.
That's also, like, as a Cardinals fan, I have to be. So all the money
Your
this
only
season,
hope.
really hoping some defense helps out a lot. All right, I think that should do it. What do we got to close out this one? Someone's got to have something.
We all agree the Nationals will suck.
This is true. All right, I think that's.
They'll be all right.
I'll stick with suck. Good enough for me. All right. Thanks for doing this, guys. And thanks for watching. Click through. Oh, whoops. Click through. We have a couple more of these down below. And then also, like, there will be a playlist. And what am I forgetting? Oh, yeah. Click down below. We got further previews on all of these teams in case you want to learn some more about each team, because we kind of went brief with this division. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.